The effect of ABAB treatment design on executive functioning in an individual with ASD by Joshua Hawley, Danielle Robinson, and Caitlin Taylor. Although there are differences that exist in defining the construct in the scientific literature, the components typically involved in executive functioning include aspects of planning, flexibility, inhibition, attentional control, and verbal and visuospatial working memory. Much of the research literature has been dominated by evaluating its effects on individuals with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. One study utilized a between-group psychosocial intervention with a comparative analysis and parental or teacher behavior rating scales. The results of this study revealed significant improvements in the visuospatial memory, planning, hyperactivity, and impulsivity or attention of the subjects in the treatment group relative to the control group. Other studies have focused on the memory deficits that are apparent in executive dysfunction by assessing its effect on individuals with impairments in certain regions of the brain. One study assessed whether impairments of object location in adults diagnosed with amnestic mild cognitive impairments were a result of hippocampal dysfunction. The results of the event-related fMRI revealed decreased activation in the dorsal, ventral, and hippocampus region of the brain in adults with AMCI, compared to healthy elderly adults when successful in coding novel stimuli versus repeated stimuli. Although it is known that deficits in executive functioning are displayed by individuals with autism spectrum disorder, few studies have assessed the effects on this population. ASD is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts, and it is associated with restrictive, repetitive patterns of behavior, interest, or activities. One study utilized a between groups designed for children with and without ASD to assess working memory, inhibition, and planning, using computerized measures and parental behavior rating scales. The results indicated that differences in executive functioning in those with ASD may only become apparent when situational demands require the coordination of multiple abilities. The study examined the effects of executive functioning measures as well as subjective complaints in high-functioning older adults with ASD and older adults without ASD. The results of this study indicated that older adults with ASD reported more subjective complaints, but only differed on executive functioning tasks except for the longer execution time of the Tower of London. Few studies have evaluated the effects of executive functioning in individuals with ASD. Most of the literature pertaining to impairments in executive functioning with ASD have focused on mean differences on executive functioning measures in comparison to typically developing populations. Even fewer studies have incorporated procedures to increase performance on executive measure tasks in everyday applied settings. The purpose of the current study is to assess how incorporating a behavior analytic ABAB treatment design with an environmental probe will influence whether an individual with ASD will pick up his belongings before leaving a room. The independent variable in the current study is a stimulus that vibrates whenever the participant walks towards a door to a room without picking up his belongings. The dependent variable in the present study is whether the participant picks up his belongings before exiting a room.